TAP 2017 TASA and 2019 TA Safe Routes call for projects WebEx with our bike peg coordinators and supporting staff across the agency. Are you in the right one?
I guess so.
All right. So we would like to go ahead and do a roll call just because we have very important information to share and we want to document. So do we have anyone from Abilene District? Amarillo? Atlanta? Austin District?
Michelle Moe here.
Awesome, thank you. Beaumont District? Brownwood District? Bryan District?
Bryan District is on the line.
Thank you. Childress?
Yeah, Childress is here.
All right. Corpus Christi? Dallas District?
Mayor from Dallas is here.
Wonderful, thank you, Maher. El Paso District? Fort Worth District?
Hello, Bonnie.
Good morning, Phil. Houston District? Laredo District? Lubbock District? Lufkin District? Odessa District? Paris District? Here. Odessa? Paris District? Odessa. Thank you, Kelly.
This
in
is
Odessa.
Sid.
Hi, Sid. Spar District? San Angelo? San Antonio? Tyler? Waco?
Hey, Bonnie.
Good morning, Waco. I'm not sure which one of you
Erica.
that was. Good morning, Erica. Wichita Falls.
Wichita Falls is here.
All right. Yoakum. All right. So if anyone didn't have their audio on, feel free to send us an email, let us know you were here. We also have some of our division support staff on the line from some of the other divisions. So if the folks from divisions that are on want to say hello.
This is Tom with local governments.
Good morning, Tom.
Hello.
Do we have anyone from finance?
So I was like, well, I'll just send them an email, but I was there.
I think the audio is, for the last speaker was not very clear, so not sure who that last person was. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We are going to give you a very brief overview of the TA and the 2015 and 2017 projects, and then we're going to dive into the project initiation timeline, some upcoming tools that we're providing for you, and then go into some specifics about entering our projects into TxDOTConnect, because our projects have some intricacies that make it unique or different compared to your typical roadway projects. So we're going to provide you some detailed guidance on that, and then talk about what we're going to address in future webinars or WebExes. And before I go on, this is Bonnie Sherman, and I have two folks in the room with me.
Noah Heath, PTN.
This is Carl Seifert with Jacobs supporting PTN.
All right. So We have all of our projects under construction or complete construction from our 2015 TAP program, and we have just 18 projects from the 2017 call that have not let for construction yet. Carl sent out requests for status this morning on those projects, and so we are working with folks to ensure that those get let hopefully by October of this year. So next slide. Okay. So we have, let's see. Okay, so for any project that is going to let after August of this year, we need to make sure that the projects get into the FY 21-24 STIP. That's a new STIP, and so any project that hasn't let by this August needs to be added into the new STIP. The eSTIP portal deadline is June 22nd, and all of our projects that are going to be included in there must be addressed in your TIP or STIP public involvement. So if you have rural TIP meetings, public meetings, please be sure these projects are individually listed in that TIP and STIP. We want to make sure that the entries in eSTIP portal for the FY 21-24 STIP match what was in the previous STIP, the FY 19-22 STIP, exactly. We want it to look exactly like it did before because it got approved by FHWA that way, and so we don't want to introduce any changes unless we had an approved modification to your scope. Then, of course, that needs to be captured. Let us know. We will be reviewing all TIP and STIP entries for our projects in the 21-24 STIP, and we'll contact y'all if you have any questions. But this is really important, especially for y'all who are in MPOs, that you work with your MPO to ensure these projects are captured in their MPO TIP as well. We have transferred about 6 or so projects to the design division that were submitted to our call for projects that were on system pedestrian improvements that scored high enough that they could have been funded by our funding, but we transferred them to design division, and that gave us the ability to fund 1 or 2 or 3 more projects that were submitted under our call. However, there are a bunch of other projects, 200 and something additional Safe Routes to School projects that were submitted to TxDOT for the 2019 call. These indicate that there is a need within the community for pedestrian improvements. So these are good candidates for the districts to include in their district safety plans. These are also candidates if you have pedestrian funding, or if the design division through their curb ramp sidewalk program identifies your district for pedestrian improvements. These are good candidate projects to be included in those. And then also, if you are upgrading a roadway along any of these projects, please take this as community input into that roadway project scoping as identifying a need for sidewalks. And understand that that often these projects are submitted with minimal limits, and our project might be bigger in scope, or it might have different limits, and we should be looking at the big picture, and which could mean extending the limits on a project that was submitted to us under a call. So please keep these projects in mind. You all have reviewed every project that was submitted to your district, so please take that as input as you further advance and develop projects within your communities.
Okay, I'll take it from here. This is Noah. First, we wanted to revisit the project initiation timeline. This is the general project implementation timeline over the next year with a target date of full execution of these projects, ASAs, by November 1st, 2020. And you can see that there's some overlap. I'm not going to read through all of the items, but there's overlap for each of the items because depending on the MPO or the specific situations of that project, it may fall under a different STIP cycle or whatever the MPO tip deadlines are. So there will be a little overlap, but the overall target for all projects is November 1st, 2020. This presentation is focused on the gray, so the second line, the TxDOT-Connect. So we'll be talking about how to enter your projects into TxDOT-Connect for this funding. And our goal is to have all projects entered into TxDOT-Connect by the end of March. We'll be providing tools to help with this, get everything entered into TxDOT-Connect, and then also providing a spreadsheet for, or I'll just read through each of them. We'll be providing a guidance document by the end of this week that'll go into detail. It'll be similar to this presentation, but it'll provide a lot more detail on how to enter in projects into TxDOT-Connect. And then it will provide additional information for the next steps in project initiation. So local agency project procedures, risk assessment, special approval, economic disadvantaged counties program. So there's several projects that have that EDCP funding. So it'll give detail on how to proceed with those projects, the TIP and STIP, advanced AFAs, and then the federal project authorization and agreement. We'll also, another tool that will be used when entering the projects into TxDOT-Connect is the final detailed application. We'll talk about the fields that are helpful when you're entering your project into TxDOT-Connect. We're creating a project initiation checklist for these projects, so it'll help to make sure that you guys don't miss any specific items along the way. And then also we'll be providing spreadsheets that'll have the cost breakdowns for TxDOT-Connect, the STIP, and then the AFA, because they're all a little bit different and they don't quite match. So we're creating the spreadsheets that will give you the numbers for your project so you know exactly what to enter in each area. And then AFA templates, we hope to have those finished by mid-March. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the tools that we'll use for entering projects into TxDOT-Connect. The detailed application, the important pages to look at for the detailed application is the cover page that PTN created has the updated project description and project name. So you'll want to look at that whenever you're entering your project name into TxDOT-Connect, and then also the from and to limits, and then the project description. This.
Go ahead, sorry.
One important thing to note is to know the funding source for the project, because some of the project names actually have SRTS in the name, or Safe Routes to School in the name, or school sidewalks, because Safe Routes to School projects are a category of project under transportation alternatives. But then we also have Safe Routes to School funding for Safe Routes to School projects. So you'll see Safe Routes to School projects under both funding sources. So it's important to know that funding source and not assume that it's a Safe Routes to School funding, funded project just because it has Safe Routes to School in the project name. So it's a bit confusing, and we anticipate some confusion, but if you just think of the project in terms of its funding source and not focus as much on the project name, then that may help any confusion. So this is the cost breakdown spreadsheet for the TxDOTConnect, and I'm actually going to pull up the spreadsheet. You'll get a better look at it. There's a tab for the non-urban TA projects, and then there's also a tab for the Safe Routes to School projects. So each project is listed, and then the first row will show where that information is in the detailed application. The second row will tell you which field in TxDOTConnect to enter that information into. And then the third row is just like a column title or field title for the spreadsheet. But you can see that it has like the PE amount, and if you scroll down, it'll actually give you, for the funding page, the field entries for each funding line that you'll enter into the funding page. So we're hoping that this will be a helpful tool and consolidate all the information that you need from us to enter into TxDOTConnect. And like I said, there's both a tab for non-urban TA and then Safe Routes to School projects. See if it's going to pull up the same.
Nope.
Okay. So another important note is there is differences in funding for the Safe Routes to School as opposed to the, here, let me move this real quick. Sorry about that. Okay. So there's key differences in the funding for transportation alternatives and Safe Routes to School. The Safe Routes to School allow PS&E and environmental documentation, and they're 100% federal funds. 100% of construction, and they don't require any local match, although there are a few cities that provided a contribution. That's what we're calling it, because it's not really a match, but they did provide money towards the project. So we'll talk about how to accommodate those projects that provided a contribution. And then overruns are on a case-by-case basis. Transportation alternatives, PS&E, and environmental documentation may be used as an in-kind contribution. Construction is 80% federal, 20% local, and that includes EDCP and in-kind, and the project sponsor is responsible for 100% of cost overruns. So those differences all relate to the funding page when we start entering in the funding lines. Those differences, you'll see those differences in the funding lines. So the first item, or the first page in TxDOTConnect is the location page, and there's several options for entering location data into TxDOTConnect. We won't go into each of those items. We just want to highlight the important things for these programs. We figure that y'all have already had some experience with entering in projects and understand how to do all that. So we're just going to highlight the quirks with this program. One thing that we want to highlight is whenever you enter the population data, if you also map the project, it may automatically enter in a population number, and then that population number will affect the population category. And that population category is very important for this funding because populations of less than 5,000 pull from a different funding source then the populations of 5,001 to 200,000. There's actually a different code that FHWA uses, and there's different pots of money. So if that gets confused, then the project will be pulling from the wrong pot of money, and it can really affect the lapsing or potential lapsing of the project. So we want to make sure that we have the correct population category. And for some of these projects, they may be a county project and they don't have a city that they're connected to, but there's a census population that they use that's actually smaller than the total county population. And so if you just map it, it might pull the whole county population and then misrepresent the population of the project sponsor. So we just really want to highlight that that's a really important item on the location page. So project details. On this page, the important items, most of the stuff is straightforward, but on the construction estimate, you'll need to enter in the total construction cost estimate that's located on the cost breakdown spreadsheet. It's column I, titled Total Construction Estimate. On the limits, we want to try to fit in the total limits of the project, and some of the limits are going to be a little funny because they might be on multiple streets. So this example is pretty straightforward because it's on Center Street from McBriar to Borden Street. But if you have multiple streets that the project's on, you would want to list those. So if there's like 2 streets, you could say on Center Street and M Street from the elementary school to Borden Street, or something along those lines where you include all of the streets that the project facilities are actually on, and then an overall project limit that might be the first limit on the first street and then the last limit on the next street. And that's where you'll look at the project description that's on that cover page, and then also the detailed application should have the street that it's on and the to and from streets. But you'll also want to look at the attachment A, the project location map, because that might help you in creating that description. And we realize it might be a little challenging because there's a limit on the number of characters you can have in these fields. So if there's any issues with that, feel free to call us and we can work with you on that.
So Noah, if we did not have any projects selected, then we don't really have to worry about this TxDOT-Connect portion.
Well, we still are reviewing the small urban TA projects.
Okay.
And so there's a possibility that you may receive one of those projects.
One may slip in. Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay.
So we're hoping that this information will be useful, if not for a project now, then maybe in the future with the small urban category.
No, this is Blanca in El Paso. I have a question on the Safe Routes to School project.
Yes.
The funds that were awarded for them, does that include the engineering, or is that purely for construction, the ones on the minute order, the dollar amounts there?
That includes the total project value, so it would include the engineering and the construction.
And environment. Okay, another question on that. When we're entering numbers into TxDOTConnect, finance won't let us enter PE amount in there. They tell us that they will not enter PE until the AFA has been executed. How are we going to get past that?
So we have been able to add the engineering amounts in the ones that we have been testing out. So if you have issues, let us know and we'll try to work with whoever y'all are working with where you have an issue. But we'll provide you with the numbers in that spreadsheet that Noah pointed out. That'll show you which costs go in the PE, because it's not straightforward. Unfortunately, it's not clear.
Okay, but then you'll help us out with finance then, because we've
You
tried
betcha.
other projects, not these projects, but we've tried another that have PE and they won't let us until we have an agreement. So.
Okay. I don't know about other projects, but we can certainly help you out with these projects for sure.
Okay. All right. That's
Yeah.
fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the other key items are the project classification. So that will be either a PED for pedestrian, sidewalk, and curb ramps, BIK for bicycle improvements. And the bicycle, the BIK includes shared use paths. So if the project has a shared use path, then that would be the classification. And then probably they won't be used as much, but the SFT, the safety improvement project, and then the TCD is a traffic control device. Those may be included in the project, but probably the primary purpose of the project is either a pedestrian facility or a bicycle infrastructure. And then the short description, there's really two options: construction of pedestrian infrastructure, and then bicycle and pedestrian improvements. So for the project page, there's also the estimated cost fields. And those items will be in the cost breakdown spreadsheet, column I, total construction cost, and then column L, which is PE amount. One thing for the STIP section in the project details page, make sure that for all projects that you check construction and preliminary engineering, we'll be entering in some amount in all of the in preliminary engineering, even if the project is only funded for construction, because there's the TxDOT admin cost for review of the preliminary engineering. So there'll always be some funding amount in that preliminary engineering, and so we just want to make sure that all projects have both of those checked. Another important item for this program, but also for all roadway projects in general, it's really important item for our program. We get questionnaires about it and different ways to show performance and what TxDOT is doing as far as pedestrian and bicycles. And that is to be sure to check the pedestrian or bicycle facility, and then add the facility length. And so that's at the bottom of the project details page. And if you have questions about what bicycle facility category or pedestrian facility category it falls under, if you click the question mark at the top right corner of TxDOTConnect, it'll provide a document with a whole list of definitions, and the bike, pedestrian and bicycle definitions are at the bottom. If you scroll all the way down, it'll provide a definition for each facility type, but then also provide some instruction on how to calculate the facility length, because the facility may be on both sides of the road, or it might be segments which connect to larger network. So it'll give guidance on how to enter the actual facility length. With that, I'll turn it over to Bonnie to go over the funding.
All right. So there are various codes that you have to enter for all of your funding sources into TxDOTConnect. And these are very important so that, again, the right funding source gets billed for the project. We have Safe Routes to School funding, and I believe this week TxDOTConnect will be programmed to include the new program ID and the new work program. But all of those numbers are there in this table. It comes from the guidance document that we'll provide at the end of this week. Both of these funds are going to be considered Category 9. Some of the codes may be updated by the Finance Division over time, depending on when funds are available. And we actually have probably a dozen appropriation codes for Safe Routes to School that we're working with. So that one can be flexible. And then, let's see, that's it. Next slide.
Bonnie,
right.
is this just for the new projects and not prior projects?
So for prior projects, I would suggest that you look back at the guidance that we provided for the 2017 call. So that would have been in early 2018. We have a similar table to that that has the non-urban and small urban, but we can go ahead and add a line with the small urban funding to the guidance document so that we have all of those codes in there too.
So
that way,
so these prior projects need to be put into TxDOT-Connect as well.
So the prior projects are in TxDOT-Connect, and I will tell you that they're all in there a little bit different. And we're trying to, our goal with this guidance and with this WebEx and with reviewing the projects before they get finalized is to make them all consistent and all accurate to the extent possible. So you might notice some improvements that you can make to your projects, particularly in the funding, based on the guidance that we're providing today. And if you have any questions about any of your prior projects, feel free to contact us to review those projects because they're kind of all over the map, the way they got transitioned from TxDOT-Connect. And so we haven't done a very intensive review of what got transitioned over from TxDOT-Connect, but we are finding that there are a lot of issues with the prior projects. So far, they haven't stopped anything from letting, so that's a good thing. Although we have actually had a major problem come up because of the transition that almost ended up canceling a project that had already let. So we do need to pay attention to how they're set up and make sure that they are accurate because it can be a deal breaker. So for TxDOT-Connect, we mentioned that preliminary engineering will be entered into TxDOT-Connect. In DCIS, we did not do this, so this is a new aspect of TxDOT-Connect, and we will provide you with the numbers to insert, but the PE funding that we show in TxDOT-Connect is going to be the cost of TxDOT's oversight, so the portion of the admin fee that it will be used for the PE oversight. And if it's a Safe Routes to School project, it will also include the amount for design that was approved in a Safe Routes to School application. The amount that goes in the preliminary engineering line in TxDOT-Connect is going to be the amount that will be requested for an FPAA for the PE phase. And so it's important that we have all of the numbers in there correctly, all the codes and stuff. And so we will, we do want y'all to send us, once you get your projects set up in TxDOT-Connect, we want you to send it to us so we can verify. Next slide. For TA projects, the breakdown is 80-20 federal and local. And so you're going to enter the amounts, and then it should break out 80-20 for you. If you click on the little arrow by the local amount, then that's where you can put the local match type, which for the PE phase will only be cash. And then you can enter in the minute order for PE phase. For the construction phase, we can enter in the amounts for the construction phase and the codes, but finance has to enter the minute order. You'll see there are 3 lines here on this example. This is a TA project that included in-kind contributions. And because we have a portion of the cost that will, the local match will be come from 2 sources. The local match is going to come from a cash match, and it's also going to come from an in-kind contribution. And we can't enter both of those on the same line. So if we have an in-kind contribution as a local match, most of the time we're going to end up having to put multiple lines of funding there so that we have a line of funding that is broken out 80-20 for an in-kind match, and a line that is broken out 80-20 with a cash match. And then all TA projects and all Safe Routes projects will both have an additional cash line of local funds, a $1 cash line, open line for funding for any overruns. We couldn't capture the whole line in one slide, so this is the second half of the funding screen for that line, and you can see under local type, we have a cash match portion and an in-kind match portion, and we have it broken out in the spreadsheet that we'll provide to you. If you have any questions, please call us. So those projects that also have EDCP, you'll need to scroll down on the funding page and check off the Economically Disadvantaged County program, and you'll need to fill out the paperwork, but we'll inform you all about that paperwork next month in a WebEx.
One thing about the EDCP, if your project has EDCP, then you'll want the local percentage will be less than 20%, and the remainder will be state, a state percentage. So that's also broken down in the spreadsheet, so you know what percentages to enter for state and local. Okay, I guess I'll take over from here. The letting page, one comment we wanted to make, if the districts have capacity, we would like them to consider a state let for smaller local governments with limited capacity to oversee the design and construction phases of these projects. You know, some of the local governments are pretty small, and it can be more work to guide them through the process than just to have the project be a state-led project. So, you know, each district treats this a little different, but we would like you to at least consider it because some of these local governments could really use the guidance and or actually have someone take over the letting for them because they don't really have the institutional capacity to handle that type of project.
I will add that some districts have just made it a policy for the non-urban TA to just do a state-led on all of those because it is so much additional effort on their part to handhold. It also creates project delay because the local entity has trouble getting together their bid documents and following all the state and federal requirements, and you know, it's a lot easier if we just handle it ourselves. there are a few cases where the locals also didn't have the capacity to do their PS&E development and their environmental documentation. And so the district has taken over that phase as well. And if you're interested in doing that, we do have, or soon there will be some indefinite deliverable contracts available through the design division for bicycle and pedestrian projects that we can tap into for these projects. So those will be available by the time the AFAs are executed, and those will be available for y'all to use.
So for the letting page, you'll enter the letting type, but then also for the estimated letting date, we're going to take the detailed applications and look at the information that the project sponsors provided, and we'll provide you guys by the end of the week kind of like a PTN reviewed estimate for letting, but we'll have to coordinate with the project sponsors, and then also we want input from the district to see how y'all feel about the estimated letting dates, so that we kind of have a overall, I guess, look at all of the projects and when their letting is. And so we'll be providing that information by the end of this week as well. Also on the letting page, there's the performance end date section, or performance end dates. For state-let projects, the letting management has started some trainings for the districts, and in that training it'll cover performance end dates for state-let projects. And those trainings are over the next few weeks. Y'all may have heard about them. I don't know. I think there's a training today from 1 to 2. I have a list of all of the districts and what their training date is, so I can send that out after this meeting. For local let projects, they want to, at this time, they want to treat it the same as they did for the 2017 and 2015 projects in DCIS. So you'll enter a performance end date when you're setting up the project, and this is the anticipated completion date for the project construction. So you'll use the letting date that we estimate, coordinating with the districts and then the project sponsors as a starting point, and then try to determine mobilization and duration of construction, and then also the time necessary for TxDOT's review, and then come up with an estimated construction end date or completion date. And then letting management, they can change that performance end date up and all the way up until the FPAA for construction is approved. So on the resources page, the main item is the local government project tab, where you'll include whether it's an on-system project, off-system local government project, or not a local government project. And that text in the slide provides a definition of each of those, and then the same information will be in the guidance. I'll let Bonnie take over this slide.
At the end, or one of the last pages within TxDOTConnect is the project comments page. And we want to add a couple of comments on all of the TA projects, and then a couple of comments on the Safe Routes projects. So again, it's important to know the difference between the different funding sources. On the comments page, we want to put the max federal funds, and we also want to include the eligible in-kind contribution amount in one comment. We also want to add a second comment that includes the total admin cost the authorized construction amount and the construction-related amount. And we'll provide all of those amounts to you, but they'll help as we go through project development. When we get like 2 or 3 years down the road and you are trying to figure out, you know, how much admin cost they have left or how much was actually authorized for the construction portion. There is some flexibility for funds between these different categories to be all combined or applied to different portions of the project, but it just provides additional clarification to help you ensure there's enough budget or see where there might be additional budget needed that the local government would have to come up with as you head to letting. Okay.
So for the Safe Routes to School projects, entering these projects in will be, for the most part, the same as the TA projects, except for a few items that are very important. The funding page. So for Safe Routes to School, you'll include the PE amount, and that'll be in the cost breakdown spreadsheet. And this will include the amount that the project's actually spending on preliminary engineering, but then also the TxDOT admin cost for review of preliminary engineering. The work program and PID, those are different. We doctored this slide so that, you know, it has what the actual work program and PID will be, but those are not available in TxDOTConnect right now, but we got word that they're going to put those changes in by the end of the week, so they should be available pretty soon. For preliminary engineering, it's not a fixed amount, so you won't check this one. And then like Bonnie was saying, we have like 12 different appointment codes, apportionment codes. So we're just putting in LU20 or LU30, and then finance will figure out like which apportionment code will actually pull funds from, because as the projects move forward, they'll have to be flexible with that since there's like 12 different codes. So this will be 100% federal participation, 0% local, and then preliminary engineering, you can enter in the minute order and the date. It's different for construction. Finance will have to enter in the minute order. But for construction, you'll include the construction amount, which will be included in the cost breakdown spreadsheet, the category, work program, PID. For construction, it is fixed. And then there's also a open local funding line, and that's for the potential for cost overruns. We want to open funding activities so that those overruns could be applied to the local government if that's necessary. One thing to note is that with the Safe Routes to School, there's not a local match. It's 100% federal. But there are a few project sponsors that provided a local contribution. And so instead of entering $1, you would enter in whatever amount they're contributing to the project. And we have that broken down in that cost breakdown spreadsheet. The open local government activity will be a cash for local type. And like I said, the minute order will be entered in by finance. Again, for construction, it's 100% federal and 0 local participation. And then for the project comments, we will include this information in the cost breakdown spreadsheet, but like Bonnie was saying, these are important items that aren't included as fields in TxDOTConnect, but they're important for our program, and especially years down the road when you're trying to calculate, you know, how much is left, how much was the TxDOT admin fee, and different amounts or from experience items that really just kind of like breadcrumbs to give us clues on how to calculate overall project cost and where the project stands at whatever point in time we're looking at it. And then once you have completed setting up the project in TxDOTConnect, you'll save it, and then we would like it if you would email us the CSJ so that we can review the project and make sure that it's ready to go before it's moved on to finance for their review. And I'll hand it over to Bonnie to wrap up.
Okay. So we plan to have another WebEx in March, about a month from now, to cover the TIP and STIP cost breakdown and process. We are developing a project initiation checklist, which will help us make sure that no steps get overlooked. We'll cover the EDCP and the risk assessment and special project approval as time is available, because those things need to be done in advance of the AFA. In April, we will cover the AFA and discuss in-kind contributions, talk about the design phase for Safe Routes to School, and talk about the FPAA for the engineering phase. All of those things are coming up soon. And we are providing, one thing that I wanted to point out to everyone is that the numbers, because TxDOTConnect still talks to DCIS, we are still limited in certain things when it comes to inputting numbers or dollar amounts in TxDOTConnect. So you will notice that the numbers that we provide to you to input into TxDOTConnect are not going to match the numbers that you put in your TIP or STIP entry, and that may not match what's in the AFA either. But we will provide spreadsheets and guidance on all of these amounts, and we just ask you to ask us if you have any questions and have faith in us that the numbers are correct, because all of these things are being set up consistently across the state, and we're doing them this way so that we can comply with all the different systems and requirements, federal and state requirements. So just let us know if you have any questions. And please send us your CSJs so we can review your TxDOTConnect page before you finalize it. If you are ready to enter your projects in a local TIP or STIP, send us those pages. Tell us you've put them into eSTIP portal if you've done that, so that we can review all of that stuff before they get final, because it's a lot easier to correct before they are finalized.
All right, with that, we'll open it up for questions. I recorded this WebEx, so we will provide the link in a few days, and it'll also be on the 2019 Call for Projects SharePoint site. So if there's individuals at your district who would like to review it for as they're entering projects into TxDOTConnect or before they enter the projects in, then it'll be available. And then we'll also be sending out guidance by the end of this week. And the guidance document will cover a lot of the same things that we presented today.
Do we have any questions?
This is Sid. I have one.
Yes.
So like a TA project, we were talking about the letting, the state letting. If and I'm asking this because I think it'll benefit others too that may have considering state letting, whereas maybe then their application they were planning on doing local let, and so they included in their budget some costs for construction administration. If it was approved for the total project amount with that in there, you guys just basically leave that in there as available for construction bid item costs, right?
That is correct. That is correct. The construction amounts or costs that we put into TxDOTConnect on the funding page are going to be inclusive of construction costs and construction related costs. It does not include TxDOT administrative cost for the construction phase or construction oversight. So that's one of the oddities that we have to deal with our program. So it is available there if it's a state let to be used for the actual construction cost.
Okay. Of course, we have the included administrative costs
Yes,
in the application.
It is in the application, and it will be included in the AFA and in the SPAA and in the STIP, but it doesn't get captured in TxDOTConnect.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why we're adding extra notes.
I'm referring to that percentage, 15% administrative cost. We've never had any problems with that covering our state let work.
Good. Yeah. So that 15% administrative fee that we add on, some of that gets shown in TxDOTConnect in the PE line, but it does not get captured for the portion that is used during construction phase in TxDOTConnect.
Are you sure? I mean, is this something new? Because it is for my 2017 projects.
Well, we should take a look at your 2017 projects because we are setting them up for the construction identically to how we set them up for 2017.
Okay.
We just had to update for TxDOTConnect, but we have been working with finance to make sure that we're doing it correctly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can talk to you some more later about that.
Okay. Thanks, Sid. Any other questions? All right. Well, it's a lot of information, we know, and we will provide.
Bonnie?
Yes.
This is Blanca. I have a question real quick.
Okay.
I know you guys are still working on the list for the provisional list of projects, right? You're saying that you're trying to have that ready by about April?
Yes.
Okay. There's a project that you guys were still looking at. I don't know if you're still looking at it here in El Paso, but it's in our district, but it's actually out in Marfa. And we're getting ready to have our meetings for a rural tip at the end of actually third week of March. And if we need to include that project in the rural tip, we need to know if that project's going to be there or not. So, or are we going to be able to come back and at some other point add it? Because you know how we only do those every 2 years.
Right. That's a good question. So the projects that are going to be on the conditional project list will not go on the new tip because the funds won't be available. We aren't going to send the list of conditional project list projects to the commission for award until the next funding bill is authorized by FHWA or the federal government. So the conditional project list will not be included on the tip or STIP.
Okay, then we'll just have to come back and do it. If they do get selected and out of cycle somehow into the tip then.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
You're welcome. If anyone else, any other questions, feel free to email us or you're welcome to speak up now. Thank you all for your time today. We appreciate it. Give us a call with any questions or send us an email. Thank y'all.
Thank you.